Welcome to my channel, where the shadows speak and the tales chill the bone. I'm your host, and each week, we dive into the depths of the most spine-tingling horror stories that will leave you questioning the silence of the night. Today, we embark on another terrifying journey with a story that's sure to haunt your dreams. Remember to hit that like button if the video sends a shiver down your spine, leave a comment below to share your thoughts or fears, and don't forget to subscribe to ensure you never miss out on the next dose of dread. Let's keep the thrill alive together. Now, sit back, dim the lights, and prepare for a frightful experience. In the heart of the Appalachian Mountains, Whispering Hollow was known for its chilling folklore. The forest was said to be haunted by the spirits of lost travelers and the ghost of a vengeful witch known as Black Annis. Alex, Casey, Taylor, and Sam, four friends from a nearby college, decided to spend their weekend debunking these local legends. Armed with cameras and a sense of adventure, they ventured into the forest as the first snow of the season began to fall. The forest seemed almost serene under the fresh snow, each step they took crunching softly. They set up their base camp near an ancient oak, its gnarled branches stretching out like skeletal fingers against the twilight sky. As they unpacked, Sam found a tattered book, its pages filled with cryptic symbols and tales of Black Annis, a spirit said to kidnap those who didn't respect the forest's boundaries. Night descended with an oppressive calm, and the temperature dropped sharply. Casey started a fire, its warmth a stark contrast to the chilling howls of the wind that carried tales of the witch's abductions. Alex and Taylor explored nearby, filming everything for their documentary, while Sam stayed behind to decipher the old book. Sam's voice trembled as he read aloud, "Those who enter with doubt shall find no escape." The others laughed it off, but the laughter was hollow. Taylor's camera captured strange, glowing eyes in the distance, but each time they investigated, nothing was there. The unease began to weave into their banter. As the clock ticked past midnight, the snow ceased, leaving a blanket of white that muffled sound. The friends decided to venture deeper, following an old trail that the locals avoided. The path led to a dilapidated cabin, its windows like empty eye sockets. A sense of dread enveloped them, but curiosity drove them forward. Inside the cabin, the air was stale and the wooden floor creaked ominously. They found old photographs on the walls, images of people long gone, some marked with strange symbols. Alex felt a cold hand brush against his neck, but when he turned, he was alone. The photos hinted at a history of tragedy. Back at camp, their mood was somber. Sam insisted the book mentioned a ritual that could protect them, but it required an offering. They pooled together some food and personal items, leaving them at the base of the oak. As they did, a silent watcher in the forest noted their actions, unseen and unbidden. The night grew darker, stars hidden by a thick cloud cover. Casey suggested ghost stories around the fire to lighten the mood, but the tales only seemed to call forth the forest's own legends. Shadows flickered, and the sensation of being watched intensified. Their laughter was now forced, echoing into the void. Suddenly, Taylor's camera picked up a figure, tall, cloaked, and moving silently towards them. Panic set in as the figure drew nearer, its presence chilling the air. They scrambled to gather their things, the figure's eyes glowing an unnatural green, locking onto each of them in turn. They fled, the creature's footsteps close behind. They split up in their haste, the forest swallowing them into its labyrinth. Alex and Casey found themselves by a frozen lake, the surface cracked and whispering. They heard a woman's voice, soft and melodic, coming from beneath the ice. The allure was magnetic, and they had to fight the urge to step onto the treacherous surface. Taylor and Sam, meanwhile, stumbled upon an old graveyard. The tombstones were worn, inscribed with the same symbols from the book. A sudden gust extinguished their flashlight, leaving them in pitch darkness. They could hear the rustling of leaves, as though the dead were rising to greet them. Reunited by sheer luck, they decided to find the cabin again, hoping it could provide shelter. The wind carried their whispered plans, and the forest seemed alive with intent. Branches snapped like bones under the weight of an invisible force, and the air grew thick with the scent of decay. The cabin was a dark silhouette against the moonless sky. They barricaded themselves inside, the old wood groaning under unseen pressure. Sam's translation of the book revealed a possible weakness of Black Annis, silver. They rummaged through their gear, finding silver trinkets. Alex's necklace, Taylor's hairpins. Time lost meaning in the cabin. Outside, the cloaked figure paced, its breath visible in the cold air. Inside, they found old journals, detailing the experiences of previous occupants who had encountered the witch. Each entry was more desperate, ending with scribbled notes of terror. One entry mentioned a hidden compartment in the floor, possibly a root cellar. With cautious hope, they searched and found a trapdoor, concealed under a rug. The musty smell of the cellar promised both refuge and ancient secrets. They debated whether to risk it, the sound of the wind howling above. They descended into the cellar, the walls lined with old preserved herbs and peculiar artifacts. An ancient rocking chair moved on its own, and a cold draft carried the sound of laughter, hollow and witch-like. They huddled together, the silver clutched tightly in their fists as the laughter echoed around them. Hours turned into an endless night. Above, the forest roared with the fury of the storm, and the cellar seemed to breathe with them. Sam began to chant a protective incantation from the book, his voice steady despite the fear. The others joined in, the words strange and empowering. The chanting ceased as abruptly as it started when they heard a scratching at the cellar door. They fell silent, each heartbeat loud in the stillness. The scratching was followed by a whisper. "Leave offerings and seek the light." The voice was eerie, too close to human for comfort. Morning came, but the forest remained dark under the heavy canopy. They emerged from the cabin, the cloaked figure nowhere to be seen. Their breath visible in the cold air, they found fresh symbols etched into the snow around the cabin. Protective runes, they hoped. Returning to their campsite, they found it undisturbed. The oak tree seemed to watch over them, its branches swaying gently. The silver items they left were untouched, glinting in the weak morning light. They packed quickly, the forest's silence now more suffocating than before. As they retraced their steps, they noticed the trees seemed to point towards a specific direction. Following this natural compass, they found a clearing they didn't remember from before. In the center stood a stone altar, covered in frost, but clear of snow. The book hinted at the altar's significance, a place of ancient rites. They placed the remaining silver items on the altar and stepped back. A blinding light erupted from the silver, casting long shadows that danced like specters. The forest vibrated with an otherworldly energy. When the light dimmed, they saw Black Annis for what she truly was, a wisp of smoke forming a humanoid shape, her eyes smoldering coals. She did not attack. Instead, she seemed to communicate through emotions, a profound sadness and longing that they felt in their bones. The witch's spectral form gestured towards the altar, then towards the rising sun. They understood, a sacrifice to the light, not to darkness. They each placed a personal item on the altar, and as the sun climbed higher, the forest's oppressive aura began to lift, though the cold remained. They moved quickly, hoping to leave the forest before nightfall. The path was clearer now, the trees no longer hostile sentinels but silent witnesses to their ordeal. The feeling of being watched subsided, but they couldn't shake the memory of Annis's sorrowful gaze. Reaching the edge of Whispering Hollow, they paused. The forest behind them seemed to exhale, a gust of wind carrying the last whispers of their night. The tattered book was left on a stump, an offering to any who might follow. They vowed never to return. Back in Brooksville, they tried to resume normalcy, but the encounter left a mark. Alex's camera footage showed moments that seemed to stretch into eternity, the altar glowing with an otherworldly light. Friends who watched felt the chilling presence of the witch through their screens. The locals heard of their story, some dismissing it as youthful exaggeration, others recognizing the truth in their haunted eyes. The tale of Black Annis spread anew, with the four friends as unwilling evangelists. The forest's boundary now bore new warnings, a testament to their ordeal. Each of them carried their own scars. Casey couldn't stand the sound of wind without shivering. Taylor had nightmares of the cellar's rocking chair. Sam's fascination with the occult turned into a fear that gripped his soul. and Alex, who replayed the footage obsessively, saw the witch's face smiling back at him. A year passed, and the friends went their separate ways, but on the anniversary of their night in Whispering Hollow, they received identical, anonymous packages. Inside was a piece of silver they had left as an offering, now etched with a new symbol, a warning, or perhaps a blessing. The forest remained, an ever-present shadow over Brooksville. Newcomers were told of the friends' story, the tale a reminder to respect the old woods. Whispering Hollow continued to whisper, its stories carried by the wind to those who would listen, and Black Annis's legend grew, a dark chapter in the otherwise peaceful town's history. The friends never spoke of that night again, but the silence of Whispering Hollow spoke volumes. Every snowfall, every rustling leaf seemed to carry her voice, a haunting melody that only they could fully understand. The forest, with its silent sentinel, remained a place of mystery, its depths holding secrets that the townsfolk preferred to leave untold. Their documentary, unfinished, became a local myth in its own right. The footage, filled with inexplicable phenomena, was said to be cursed, bringing bad luck to those who watched it alone. Brooksville whispered that the forest was best left in peace, its stories untold, its curses untested. Whispering Hollow's terror lived on, not in the forest alone, but in the hearts of those who had survived its night. Under the thick boughs of Ashwood Forest, the air was heavy. Hemlock's residents whispered of the Wendigo, a creature born of winter's wrath. Jack, Emily, Zoe, and Ben, skeptical of such tales, decided to expose the myth. Their live stream began as they entered, capturing the whispers and rustles that soon turned into something more sinister. The campsite set, their spirits were high but faltered with every snap of a twig. Jack's humor was a thin veneer over the growing tension. Emily's thermal imaging showed large, unknown shapes moving in the darkness. Zoe felt a constant gaze, and Ben's rationalizations grew weaker as shadows played tricks on their minds. As the moon climbed high, the forest's chill seeped into their bones. Suddenly, a wail split the night, the sound of the Wendigo, according to legend. The cries were mournful, echoing through the trees, sending shivers down their spines. The firelight flickered, casting grotesque shadows that danced with the unseen wind. Emily's grandmother had given her an old map, its lines glowing faintly under her touch. It showed a stone circle, a place said to be both a trap and a sanctuary. "Could this be our salvation?" whispered Emily, her voice barely audible over the howling wind. They decided to seek it out, the map's glow their only guide in the oppressive dark. They moved through the forest, the path seemingly shifting underfoot. The Wendigo's cries now sounded closer, more urgent. Their phones captured fleeting glimpses of a tall, emaciated figure with eyes like burning coals. It was always just out of reach, lurking in the periphery, driving them forward with a fear they couldn't articulate. Upon finding the stone circle, they felt a bizarre energy. The stones were cold, yet pulsating with a strange life. Jack began to chant, a protective spell he'd researched, hoping it would shield them. Zoe recorded their ritual, the camera's light revealing the frantic expressions of her friends. The forest seemed to hold its breath. As Jack's chant reached its crescendo, the stones lit up, casting a ghostly light. The Wendigo appeared, its form both familiar and monstrous, a chilling testament to the forest's dark secrets. They froze, the spell seemingly holding it at bay. The creature's moans were soul-piercing, a sound that seemed to come from the depths of the earth itself. The ritual demanded offerings of food and warmth, things the Wendigo craved. Reluctantly, they stripped layers of clothing and placed them with the food on the stones. The glow intensified, and the creature stepped closer, its form flickering like a mirage. They wondered if they were feeding the beast or the forest itself. The Wendigo's approach was slow, methodical. It didn't attack. Instead, it seemed to study them, its cries now softer, almost sorrowful. The map in Emily's hand burned brightly, then dimmed. Was it a sign of approval or a signal of their impending doom? They couldn't stay longer. The cold was biting, and their resolve was crumbling. They fled the stone circle, the Wendigo's cries following them, no longer aggressive, but hauntingly mournful. As they reached their camp, They realized their phones had recorded nothing but static during the ritual. The forest seemed to have swallowed those moments, leaving only the memory of the creature's gaze. Deep in the Appalachian woods lay Whispering Pines, a forest shrouded in local folklore. Tales of spirits and strange occurrences kept most residents of nearby Ravenswood away. Yet, every year, the forest beckoned those who doubted the old stories. This year, Eli, Sarah, Marcus, and Lily, college friends with a penchant for the paranormal, decided to confront the legends. Their skepticism was their shield as they loaded the car with gear, laughter echoing against the whispered cautions of the townsfolk. The sun dipped below the horizon as they reached the forest's edge. The air grew thick with an ancient stillness. Setting up camp by a babbling brook, a momentary unease swept over them. The forest seemed to inhale, carrying the scent of decay. They lit a campfire, its flames flickering wildly, stirred by unseen hands. They joked about ghosts joining them for s'mores, trying to lighten the atmosphere, but the trees whispered a deeper fear. Night fully enveloped the forest. Sarah suggested recording their experiences. Eli ventured into the thicket for wood, promising to be quick. "Be back in a jiffy," he said, but his voice couldn't dispel the chill. Minutes stretched into an eternity. The forest fell silent, a heavy quiet broken only by the snap of twigs. Fear gnawed at their hearts as they realized the forest had changed. Lily proposed a search. They split up, Sarah and Lily taking one path, Marcus another. Darkness clung to them, thick and impenetrable. Sarah's flashlight flickered, casting shadows that danced like specters. Lily's comfort was the camera's red light, a tiny beacon. They called for Eli, but the forest only echoed with their own desperate voices, swallowing their cries whole. Marcus found an old cabin, groaning under ivy's weight. Inside, the musty air was thick with mildew and a faint metallic tang. He discovered a journal filled with accounts of disappearances, the last entry decades old, speaking of a group that never returned. A cold sweat broke out as he realized the forest was more than just a story. Sarah and Lily heard Marcus's shouts and hurried back. The cabin's interior was sparse, filled with dust and shadows until their eyes adjusted. Marcus showed them the journal, and Lily's camera captured more than they noticed. Faint, ghostly figures in the corners. Their whispers now felt like cold certainty within the decaying walls. They decided to wait out the night in the cabin, the wooden structure offering a false sense of security. Outside, the forest seemed alive again, sounds hinting at unseen movement. Inside, their names whispered through the cracks in the walls. They barricaded the doors, the weight of their mortality pressing down. The camera recorded their tension, the flickering shadows playing tricks on their tired minds. Eli's sudden crash through the door brought a start. "It's out there," he gasped, eyes wide with fear. The camera caught fleeting movements, shapes mocking their terror. They found an entry about the Watcher, a forest spirit preying on intruders. Panic set in as they realized they were part of a larger, darker story. Dawn broke, a muted light filtering through the dense canopy. They gathered their belongings and stepped outside. The offerings were untouched, but a new figure, a crude wooden doll, uncannily like Lily, lay among them. The forest's whispers became a haunting symphony as they hurried away, the camera capturing every fleeing step. Their path was blocked by an impenetrable thicket. They felt lost, herded toward a grim destination. Marcus recalled a survival trick, but the canopy blocked the sun, disorienting them. Sarah found a disturbed moss trail. They followed it, hoping for safety, but it led them in circles, their hope dimming with each turn. A chilling laugh echoed through the woods, not one of theirs, a resonating cackle from unseen lips. The camera picked up quick, elusive movements between the trees. The presence was close, unseen but felt. They pressed on, the laughter following, a relentless reminder of their company in the silent forest. They stumbled into a clearing where the moss trail ended. A stone circle stood in the center, faint runes glowing under the camera's beam. The air was colder here, the sense of being watched reaching a peak. Lily saw the doll again, now impaled on a spike. The message was clear. The forest held them in its grip. A thick fog rolled in, visibility reduced to inches. The laughter ceased, replaced by a rumbling growl that seemed to vibrate through the ground. Eli's pale face, shaking hands clutching the journal, was captured by the camera. A massive figure emerged from the mist, eyes glowing red, a nightmare come to life. Chaos ensued as they scattered. Marcus and Sarah found the camera still recording amidst the fog. They picked it up and fled, the fog thinning only to lose them again. The beast's growls and Lily's screams filled the air, a terrifying symphony. They ended up back at the stone circle, the runes now brighter. The forest had plans, and they were mere players in its sinister game. Scratches on the stones matched the beast's claws, confirming their worst fears. Marcus found a riddle in the journal. I speak without a mouth and hear without ears. I have no body, but I come alive with the wind. They shouted, an echo, in unison. The growls paused, a tense silence fell, and then the fog began to swirl ominously. The beast watched them, unmoving. Marcus repeated the answer, and the creature's form wavered. The runes dimmed, and a mournful howl cut through the air as the beast vanished. They knew they had only won a temporary reprieve. The forest seemed to exhale, but the sense of dread remained, a constant companion. Daylight revealed the still forest, the camera capturing its eerie tranquility. They found the car, relief mixed with the chilling knowledge of Lily's absence. They vowed to alert authorities, to share the footage, and warn others of Whispering Pines' malevolence. But as they drove away, the camera recorded a final whisper, "You'll be back." Weeks passed, and the footage was analyzed by a local historian. The runes were linked to an ancient cult demanding tribute. No trace of Lily or the beast was found. The friends were haunted by the experience, their sleep invaded by the forest sounds. Sarah's deep dive into research unearthed an unsettling parallel to their ordeal. An old newspaper article detailed the vanishings of campers in Whispering Pines decades prior, strikingly similar to their own ordeal. The same landmarks were mentioned, the cabin, the clearing, the stones. Sarah called Marcus, voice trembling. They agreed to meet, urgency pushing them to unravel the mystery before it consumed them entirely. In Ravenswood, they sought a local medium, hoping to communicate with the forest spirits. She recognized the footage's elements as part of a curse, a cycle trapping lost souls. To break it, they must return on the next full moon for a ritual. The thought of re-entering the forest was gut-wrenching, but they felt compelled to try. Preparations for the ritual consumed them. Herbs, crystals, and offerings of whiskey were gathered. The townsfolk watched them warily, some believing the forest had already claimed them. Ignoring the stares, they returned to Whispering Pines as the moon rose, casting an unearthly glow. The clearing was, as they left it, silent and waiting. They began the ritual, chanting words the medium had taught them. The forest came alive, stones glowing fiercely, air vibrating. They placed their offerings, and Sarah read the final incantation from the journal. The forest stilled, moonlight intensifying. Then a ghostly voice, "You know the truth, yet you remain," left them paralyzed. The beast reappeared, stance more human, intent less monstrous. It spoke in a gravelly whisper, "The forest does not forgive the reckless. You have seen too much." Marcus stepped forward, pleading, "We seek to end this, to free those trapped." The creature regarded them, then with a gesture the runes died out. The sign's meaning was unclear. They left the clearing, the beast watching silently. Its presence was now tinged with melancholy. They reached the car, the forest behind them silent once more. Back in Ravenswood, the townsfolk spoke of their return in hushed tones. The medium disappeared, leaving a note. Some stories are best left untold. The forest's legend grew, the ritual's outcome uncertain. The footage from that night became the basis of local legend. Newcomers heard of the haunted forest and the friends who narrowly escaped. The medium's disappearance added to the mystery. The camera was locked away, its contents too chilling. Yet the whispers of Whispering Pines continued, a silent scream echoing through time. Marcus and Sarah lived with the certainty that Lily was beyond the veil, the beast a manifestation of the forest's will. They never spoke openly about the forest, but its presence loomed large, a perpetual nightmare whispering in the dark corners of their minds. Occasionally they received packages with old photos of the forest, each time with new, unsettling figures in the background. The terror of Whispering Pines became a silent dread, influencing the lives of those who had braved its depths. It served as a cautionary tale, ensuring the forest's whispers remained a warning. The camera's final footage, never publicized, held the truth too terrifying to share. On quiet nights, the echo of the forest's beckoning could be heard, a silent call to the unwary. Whispering Pines remains a sentinel of shadows and secrets. Those who pass by still feel the watcher's eyes upon them, a reminder that some places are meant to be untouched. Marcus and Sarah's story is a grim thread in the tapestry of Ravenswood's lore, ensuring the terror of Whispering Pines endures, woven into the town's haunted fabric. The forest's whispers continue to lure the curious and the brave. The camera's last recorded whisper, "You'll be back," haunts those who hear the tale. Whispering Pines is a living legend, where reality and the supernatural collide. The echoes of the damned can still be heard if you listen closely enough, a reminder that the watcher waits and the forest whispers its eternal call. Years later, the story of that night is still told, a tale of the haunted forest and the friends who barely escaped. The camera, now a relic of their ordeal, holds the truth, a truth too terrifying to be revealed. Whispering Pines keeps its secrets well, its entrance marked by an unspoken pact among the townspeople to stay away. The whispers are a silent scream, a reminder of the terror within. The final chapter of their experience is never written, for the forest keeps its secrets too well. The terror that Marcus, Sarah, Lily, and Eli faced became an unspoken dread, influencing their lives long after they left the woods. Whispering Pines stands as a testament to their ordeal, its whispers a warning to those who might not heed the tales of old. And so, Whispering Pines remains a place where the line between reality and the supernatural blurs. The forest's whispers and the watcher's gaze are ever present, a reminder that some stories are meant to be just whispered about, never openly challenged. The camera's footage locked away preserves the truth of that night, a truth too chilling to revisit. But the forest whispers on, its beckoning call an enduring haunt. The legend of Whispering Pines grows with each retelling. The forest's whispers lure in the curious, and the watcher's vigil continues. The camera's final whisper, "You'll be back," is a chilling refrain for those who hear the tale. The forest remains a dark sentinel, where the echoes of the past still linger, and the whispers tell of a terror that lies in wait. Marcus and Sarah's lives moved forward, but the forest's shadow never truly lifted. The medium's note, "Some stories are best left untold," became a grim irony. The forest of Whispering Pines is a place where the whispers are more than just wind through trees. It's a place where the past and present collide, and the echoes of the damned serve as a reminder of the forest's enduring malevolence. The watcher waits, and the forest whispers its eternal, chilling refrain.